So, greetings everyone. I would like to make a few comments about the recent Walkyr rework that we have been presented with during PAX, because I believe there is a lot that needs to be discussed actually, not just about the rework itself, but how it was made. First off, I would like to notice that it's not a real rework, it's more of a retouch. None of the abilities were actually changed, just their properties, which is not something like the previous two reworks on Nyx, for example, and Ash were not called reworks because they were just retouches on qualities of the abilities. Or at least they were called light reworks. So calling this a full rework is not happening.
Hello, hello.
So
We're
first
talking
off,
about Valkyr rework, long
yeah, I know
awaited,
Pablo,
long
thank you.
requested. Hope you. Let's start with her passive. Her passive used to be
Yeah, passive cool. Her new passive is now a meter, which you can see on the right there. This meter, on one hand, is a great idea. I do believe it's really cool to have her to have such an ability that boosts her a little bit beyond more than other warframes can. However, the issue that we run in is
fast you can build her multiplier.
this.
So you can use your wand to kind of pull enemies.
As he said, how quickly you can build up your multiplier. It's 150 level enemies, and it's kinda slow. Let's be honest.
Like that. As you can see, the multiplier starts.
We have a bunch of dead enemies, and we're not even halfway there. The reason why it may be an issue is because it is stated to be a survival mechanic as well, and we currently do not know how much of the meter you need to survive. And with a gather rate like that, it is insanely unreliable, especially when we will talk about it more when we talk about Hysteria. Let's just move it to that. For our first ability is obviously
the meter down there. Can use her wand. As you can see now, her wand actually moves significantly faster.
This is what I personally like to call a Pablo change. I don't believe that it was necessary to make her be able to move just from wall to wall. Maybe they had done that so that, as originally intended, it was more like a spider crawl. Well, you know, you could Spider-Man all over the level, and now we are actually getting a spider frame, so yeah, competition isn't nice. But okay, let's be honest, the real reason is probably because it saves up on code space. You no longer need an if statement for connecting with a wall and connecting with an enemy. The action is the same. Obviously, the other thing that it does, it is
midway. It used to be that essentially with your enemies down, now it actually moves.
It gathers enemies.
The other thing it does, if you cast on an enemy.
Now, obviously, the question is how many enemies does it gather? Does it gather everyone just in a single place, and what is the range of it? Because that's kind of important in a gathering tool like this. Obviously, we are yet to see, and this is hopefully a subject to changes. It would be nice if it could scale with mods, as it not always does, but this is fine. First ability is fine.
Gathers enemies down for you.
The second ability is
you can now recast it, so you don't.
It's funny because Pablo says that you can't cast it while moving right now when you can. You just need to bullet jump. I just checked. If you do it mid jump, you will continue moving as you do now, but just now you can walk, which is it's a nothing change. It doesn't mean anything. The other thing is I do believe that Warcry needs a bit more of a buff to be any useful, because right now it's an extremely selfish buff because it just buffs melee speed and a little bit of movement, because we don't know why, but it does. At least right now, maybe it won't anymore. The thing about that is, I believe it would be nice if it could provide, say, either a fire rate buff, which is, I understand why it may be seen as a bad thing. For example, your teammate may have a time-sensitive weapon, like the timing bow, any of the two. In which case, I believe it would actually be nice if it could provide, for example, reload speed. That is just nice for your entire team. Either if they use melee or if they use ranged, it's just there, it's just comfortable. Plus, it just will make... It will make a lot more nicer if you play with a team, because... Okay, the reason why is because is again we will have to talk about in Hysteria.
Have to wait for it to be over to be able to cast it.
Third ability,
but in Walkyr it was kind of useless because there's to them, and that also applies for. But it disappears if I switch to my range.
So third ability now, okay, what it does right now is your guess is as good as mine because I have no idea. To my knowledge, it's just a stun, so it's useless. Now it seems to be a stun.
And you can see now he has the lose your shield. So as you can see, my shields.
It seems to be slow and the debuff, which is cool, but why? I do believe that the third ability should have gotten a lot more changes than just numbers and properties. It should have been like completely removed and changed to something else. Because as is, it is very questionable. Like, for example, as Pablo states...
And you can see now he has the vulnerability bar, but it disappears if I switch to my range. So that...
Question, why? Why not just give it an all invulnerability? I know that some may say that, oh, giving full vulnerability may be like too much of a buff, but first off, its ability rarely anyone uses, so whatever. And second off, why? The only reason why I see it could be useful is if you wanted to make sure your teammates don't kill steal from you, which is not very important to your playstyle as far as I understand. It's damage dealing that's important. Kill stealing means nothing. So again, there we just come into the fact that if you have a teammates who prefer to use guns, you just don't provide them with any bonuses whatsoever.
Only melee vulnerability. That means all.
Just third ability is just mid. It just does nothing. It's a great place to subsume your anything whatever you want.
Them with it. A lot of the mechanics that she had, such
her fourth partner, Hysteria. Let's be honest, this is what her entire build revolves around as it is. This is why, for example, her first ability gathers enemies, it's so you could kill them with Hysteria. This is why second ability gives you your melee speed so that you could attack faster with Hysteria. This is why third ability has melee vulnerability, is so that you could quickly kill things with your Hysteria. And I'm gonna be real with you, it's kinda mid. Again, it's just...
extra armor
it's everything that was. To my knowledge, all it does just gets more...
Those kind of didn't matter when you were totally invulnerable.
Well, they don't matter now anyway, because the main damage negation what you seems to be using is armor, which is bad, which is very bad. We all know this. This has been an issue for probably a couple of years at this point. Obviously, my first question is why not give her some other damage negation powers? Because, as Pablo will now demonstrate, yeah, they give you more damage, but it's like you already have a meter for more damage. You're giving more damage on top of more damage. It's kind of like useless. Immune to status is nice, but mid. Health and armor. Armor, again, you will still... Health for Walkyr is still very low, and armor is, despite being ridiculously high, still doesn't make any noticeable change on the numbers that you get, because it is very easy to get, I don't know, like 80% damage negation on her. Very easy. Now, when Pablo later on says that you get 3 times the armor multiplier from Walkyr, I believe, it's again means nothing because you don't get as much damage negation as you would with another damage negation ability. You just get like what, 12% at best, which is very mediocre. For example, I do believe that a very good thing to subsume on Walkyr now would be Nova's planets. Well, the planets are a small thing that revolve around you because they provide extra damage negation. They will solve the problem much better than anything that Walkyr right now has. So the question is, why not to just put something like that in her kit to begin with? Why must we dance with all of that? Why? Why? It's just mediocre. Not to mention, obviously, you have to talk about at least a little bit about the fact that it has no use for your ranged weapons, which is not a bad thing, like, obviously. However, the main weakness of this type of playstyle will be nullificators and energy reserves. Because you cast a lot of things all of the time now, because your entire kit revolves around your energy. Like you need to cast that, you need to cast that, you need to cast that. But at the end of the day, a single nullificator will make you look like a bitch, because he will just appear and you can't do anything, you can't even approach him. I will make an insane statement that it would be very funny if they actually made her scaling rage for her hysteria with, well, range. Reason why it just would be funny to have her claws grow like Baruch's staff. And also the main issue of hysteria for me is the moveset. It's just bad. It's just uncomfortable to use. It doesn't flow very well into each other. So as a result, yeah, you can do a lot of damage, but you can do a lot of damage with her as is right now, with basically the same playstyle and none of the changes. And that's just painful to look at. Just to know that that's how it all ends up being. Obviously, the last thing that I would like to mention is that, I will be honest, all of these changes seem to be have done or in like an evening, single evening before the packs. Okay, maybe not single evening, but still, it is very untested. It is clearly only Pablo ever saw these changes, or at least had any input into what they will be. It is clear that it wasn't really taken into account how Walkyr is currently being played, because it is... Okay, it doesn't change anything outside of make it little bit more comfortable, but not actually interesting. It's simplification for the sake of simplification. Changes for the sake of changes. It's not anything really important. Just meh. So, at the end of the video, bullet points, what I would like to raise is obviously we need to change how the way armor works in general, because Walkyr's entire survivability revolves around armor, and it does not work well right now. If you wanted to work the way you want to, at least the way you think it would work, yeah, you did other changes to like the core systems of the game, not just to the single warframe. And second, I do believe that these changes to Walkyr herself are very raw. Very raw. They need a lot more time in the oven to be anything meaningful. With that, I would like to hear your own opinions on these things. Maybe some of you will say that I'm a complete dumbass, as the same thing that happened in the Ash video. I'm very much okay with that. I would be happy to hear that. However, to my knowledge, everyone just considers this rework on quote-unquote to be very meh, and I personally agree with that.